will introduce you. All right. I think we're live. So welcome everyone. Super excited for this conversation with Lisa. Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Thanks for coming on today and sharing your story. I love doing these kind of case study interviews because it gives our audience a chance to hear from some of our amazing clients who have made huge changes, and you have changed, I think, in every area of your life and business in a very short period of time. So especially at this time of year, I feel like as we're looking forward to the new year, it's inspiring for people to see that like a year from now, their lives and businesses could be so different. So why don't you first just kind of share your name, where you're from, and what you do?
My name is Lisa, and I am from Michigan. I live in Maryland. My husband was in the military, so we ended up locating to Maryland about 5 years ago. And I do bookkeeping and tax preparation along with payroll.
Nice. And we were talking before we got on today, and you said you've been doing bookkeeping and tax preparation for over a decade now, and you've had your business about 7 years.
Yep.
Amazing. So right before we got on, we were talking about like who was Lisa a year ago or what was going on in your life a year ago. And I always like to start there to sort of paint the picture before we talk about what's changed. So tell me a little bit about what was going on for you a year ago.
Where do I start? I was very stressed. Didn't have any motivation. I was having anxiety attacks almost every day. My relationship with my husband and my kids was not doing well. There was a breakdown in communication. I was just struggling to get through my day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember. You were a very different version of you. Yeah. And just to say, by the way, as you guys are joining us live, I think I can see the live chat while we're doing this. So feel free to type in the chat. Let us know you can see and hear us. Let us know if you have any specific questions for Lisa as we're going through the interview today. So anxiety attacks almost every day. I do remember that. That was a lot. And there was just a sense I remember of you of maybe like burnout or tiredness. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Do you want to speak to that a little bit? I mean, you'd been doing your business for a long time.
Mhm.
What was going on there in terms of your energy and your
There was no Jam McKenna. It was completely depleted. Um, I think part of it is I may have felt defeated because I didn't have anything in place, so I didn't know how to move forward. And so it was just one of those things where like, what do I do and how do I do it? And I just didn't know any of those answers. And, not having the support that I needed was a big factor, I think, in it too.
And you were doing pretty well financially, right? And by the way, like we interview a lot of people in this group who are coaches or consultants, and we thought it'd be fun to bring Lisa in because she's in a different kind of business and just to show that a lot of these same principles really work in different industries. And so you were doing pretty well financially. You said last year was already your biggest year so far in business at about how much were you making last year?
90,000.
Okay, 90,000. And then this year, how much have you made so far?
I will end the year at about 145,000.
Yay. So it's a huge change. And so you were reflecting before we got on today a little bit about like what changed there in terms of, well, actually, before we go there, I want to share a little bit more about where you were a year ago. So business wise, you said you just kind of didn't know where to go from here. What was going on like in terms of anything you're comfortable sharing in terms of your relationship, in terms of like your relationship to your partner, your kids, and also to yourself a year ago?
Well, with my husband, we were arguing almost every day. Like I said, that breakdown in communication, there was no communication. It was yelling back and forth. And I was feeling the stress, and I'm sure that projected onto him. With the kids, I was just struggling to be that mom for them, which I didn't do a really good job. But you know, I did my best day to day. It was just, I just felt, I don't know, it's really hard to put into words, but I know I didn't like myself. I didn't like where I was coming from. I didn't like what I was projecting. Um, and that was something that I really had to look into.
Mm. Well, I appreciate you being so vulnerable about that because I know you were in a challenging place. Yeah. So I don't want to keep you there. Let's talk about what's changed. So we already talked about huge jump in income, yeah, from 90,000 to 145,000 this year. And I think we had set your goal. You originally told me your goal was 90,000, then you realized you were already making that. Then we set it at what, 115 or
Yeah,
120,
with 115. Yep.
115. So you surpassed that big time. Yeah.
Blew that out.
Blew it out of the water. And let's talk about the business piece first, because that's what you really came in for, right? Was how do I grow my
Yeah.
business? Was it how do I grow my business, or how do I get motivation back in my business? Or what was it for you that had you?
Is a little bit of both, really, because I didn't know how to um grow it. Well, I kind of did, but not really. But the motivation just wasn't there. And I knew I needed to get some kind of motivation, because if I didn't have the motivation, there was no way I was going to grow it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what changed there? Like what's changed since then? I mean, obviously, before we talk about the how, let's just talk about what's different. So you made a lot more money this year. What's going on with the anxiety? What's going on with the motivation? Talk a little bit to that.
Yeah. Well, I am happy to say I'm anxiety free.
Woo!
And and I said that we're talking about that a little bit before, is if I feel a little anxious, I just go into, whether it's meditating for a couple minutes, or I'm just talking to myself saying that it's going to be what it is, and we're just going to take it one day at a time and go through the motions, and everything always worked out. I didn't see that before, but now I see that everything always works out.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
and I think it was that, but also I think a lot of removing a lot of the stressors was probably.
Oh, yes. Yes. And changing my whole attitude, because I used to be very reactive. So, really taking that in and owning that, right? Owning, and then becoming more, like I said, instead of reacting to everything, sit back, think about it. It's gonna be okay. It's gonna be
Mm.
okay.
So, okay, so no more anxiety, which is huge from daily anxiety attacks to not having that at all. And then I guess 150xing your business. I don't know how you call that, 1.5xing your business, your income. And then in terms of like the inspiration, motivation, how's all that doing now?
Oh my gosh. Since I started working with you and Gigi and having just that support, I mean, a lot of it was just trusting the process. What everything that you taught me, or that we talked about, no matter what it was trusting. And so I- it was because I didn't do that before. I didn't, I was like, yeah, that's not gonna work. No, I'm not gonna try that, because that's not, yeah,
That
I
actually
don't believe that.
surprises me because I feel like you've been so coachable. And I often feel like you're one of my most open clients in that way of just like taking it in and really applying
Right.
it. And because of that, we've seen such huge changes. And I mean, I want to speak to not just the business, because what did you say before the call? You called them the bonus surprises.
Yes, yes, because everything else, because
It's
yes, I
like,
came into it for my business, right? But everything else that transformed inside of me, yeah, that was the bonus.
so tell me a little bit about those, like in your relationship with kids, with yourself, like what changed?
Well, now, I positive thoughts, that's a big one for me. Instead of negative, it's saying positive things. Having better communication and with my husband, with my kids, and actually having conversation with them instead of being that reactive person that I was, just sitting down and having conversation. And I think that that's all went into the business too, because, when you're on that one path, that can really, it, it wasn't good.
And what was the impact of having that better communication? Like, how did it change your relationship, for example?
Um, with my husband, oh my gosh, we laugh now, we go on dates, we get in the car and just leave, just just drive around and talk, and whatever it is, or we might go, oh, well, you know what, we're gonna go out and surprise, we're going to dinner. So it's been really nice, and it's more ease of us talking to one another, and not being afraid of holding anything back, but saying it in a loving way, that it's not accusatory, or it's your fault. It's more, hey, let's have this conversation and let's work through this, and we do.
Mm. And with your kids, has it impacted your relationship with them at all?
Yes. So I remember when we first started talking. We remember when we were talking about maybe doing one date with them a month or whatever it was. So with my oldest son, we've really been like, we've gone out like twice this week already, and it's only Tuesday, but this weekend, and they'll come and ask me, my other ones, hey, let's go have lunch, or let's go have dinner, or hey, I want to go to the store. You want to go with me? And I
Nice.
do that
A
back
lot
with
of
them.
quality time with each of your kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's very nice.
And then you ended up actually, so I want to loop this background a little bit to the business, which is, I think one of the biggest things we've done in the past year, and this starts to get a little bit more into the how for those of you watching, going, well, this is all great, but how do I actually apply any of this for myself?
Mhm.
One of the big things we did this year was, you said learning not to be reactive was a big one for you. And I think we zoomed out and we took a look at your business and your life, right? And we
Yeah,
really
we do.
started seeing like where were the pressures or what wasn't working, and then what could be working better. What did you really want? So we started to really plan, and you really went out then and applied the planning. And so what did we do in terms of like, um, well, let's just speak to tax season for a minute and the stress of tax
Yes.
season, because if any of you use a tax person or a bookkeeper, or you are one yourself, there's this, it's very seasonal. So there's kind of times of year that are incredibly busy and intense. And what did that used to be like for you versus what is it like now?
Laziness. I used to, before, I'd be up till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning all day doing taxes. There'd be many times where I wouldn't even leave my desk to eat dinner. They would have to bring the dinner to me so that I could just keep working and eating and getting the taxes done. And the last season, not this current season, but the last season before that, I worked so much that I made myself sick, and it lingered into the summer. So from the anxiety and from just being so overwhelmed, I think it was. But yeah, it was just crazy. My kids were complaining. All you do is sit there and work. That's all
Mm.
you're doing. It's 1 o'clock in the morning.
So what changed when you came in? We started planning ahead,
Yes.
right? And going, how can we approach
Mm.
this differently?
Yes. So I was so thankful first off, I ended up hiring my two boys to help with some administrative stuff. And that was very eye-opening to me of how much time I actually spend on one task that I gave them for the whole tax season. And I used block timing. So I had certain times that I did taxes, and then I had certain times that I did the appointments. And I even had a picked a day where I did did bookkeeping. So that day I did no taxes, did no appointments. That was strictly bookkeeping. And I stuck to it, and I got more clients than I did in any previous year.
More clients. And how did you feel? Were you still working till 1 a.m. and stressed out all the time?
My stopped. So what I did is that I blocked off time for dinner. So I spent an hour and a half with my family, and then I was done by 9 o'clock every night.
And how many hours of work did your boys save you by coming in and working in your business?
80 hours.
80
And
hours.
I didn't even realize that it took me that long. I mean, I granted they might have been a little bit slower, but not really. But I just never realized that this one task I had them doing took that much time.
And you were able to pay them, right? And did you do the thing we talked about putting some of that back for them too?
So what I did was with my one son, I paid him, I'll just say it, I paid him $15 an hour. And then my other son, I didn't have an IRA started for him or anything. So I said, I will pay you $10 an hour. We're into if your paycheck. And then at the end of the tax season, the $5 I'll put in and open you an IRA. And I did. So he has an IRA, and we're going to do it again this tax season.
That's amazing. So again, we looked at, for those of you watching, again, there's a lot of different things we're talking about here, but just to kind of look at how you could apply some of these things in your own life, apart from the getting support and having a coach or someone to guide you through, and see what are those areas of pressure and or breakdowns, or how can you approach things differently. Some of the things that Lisa did there was like she said before, she was very reactive in her schedule, right? And was just like doing whatever, whenever. And just by blocking her time, meaning having certain days that were bookkeeping, certain days and times that were for, taxes. And we really looked at her call schedule and how she approached that. And so she wasn't reacting to other people, but she said, this is how I work, right? And we had a booking link for your calls, and we streamlined all of that. And then we looked at where could she delegate. And even if you're not in a place where you feel like you can delegate yet, and hire a bunch of support, she saw, she could actually pay her boys a relatively inexpensive amount. And that was a win-win. It gave them, spending money, and gave her support in her business. And then the thing she just spoke to was we came up with the idea, because she cares a lot, right, about financial literacy and setting herself up for your future, that she would pay part of the paycheck to the boys directly and part directly into an IRA for them to start educating them about finances. So I just think that's so fun, and was a huge change for you. Yeah. And even just the change of the time blocking, if you think about how much time you save by not task switching, and not being in that stress and overwhelm all the time, I think that was probably huge, because you were actually able to take on more clients, work far less, and have less stress, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like on Saturdays, I was open till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was done by 1 o'clock every Saturday.
That's amazing.
So
For
I would
tax
just go,
season.
"Come on, everybody, let's go do something." And they would be surprised. I'm like, aren't you supposed, don't you have an appointment? No, I'm done for the day, guys.
I love it. I love it. And part of that speaks to that thing of like just busyness, and we get reactive, you're talking about, and then just like busy. And there's something else I wanted to speak to there. What was it? I think being willing to shift your approach, and to not be like, I think before, when we first started working together, you were, like you said, you were the only person in your business. and you felt like there was no other way. Is that accurate?
Oh yeah, I just felt because I had done it that way for so long that no one else could, it was kind of like that feeling no one else could do it. I have to. It's my business. I need to do it. And then when we start talking about delegating, because I think I was like, oh, okay. I did it because I knew that starting coaching with you, I needed to be 100% in. And I remember you even asked me, are you 100% in? And I remember thinking about yes, wait a minute, what am I thinking about? Yes, if I want to make this shift, yes, I'm 100% in.
Mm. And that's so huge, right? Is being
Yeah.
willing to do things differently, to try something different, right? And to get that support. And you came in originally to one of our entry level business coaching programs. And then we saw that you could use a higher level of support. And you actually then came into private coaching, right? And then you came into our mastermind. And so the level of investment and the level of support that you've been able to get with us has increased over the year. But just to say that you started out, at an entry level program, and as you started seeing the results
Right.
jumped up, right? So some people
Oh
are ready
yeah.
to jump right in, and some people it's like they work their way up as they're like, oh my God, I've, almost, it's not doubled your income. I've 1.5x my income, and well, actually even more than 1.5, I think, in a year. And
Yeah.
all these other changes are happening in my life and my business.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, I knew I had to be 100% in.
Yeah.
And there were so many conversations that we had that I was like, I didn't even realize this, or I didn't think about it this way. And that's when I think really for me, going to the different levels, that the more that I'm like, oh, that's interesting to me, and then try it and it worked.
That's what we always say is try it. If it doesn't work, don't do it, right? We don't claim to know everything. We just know some things from working with a lot of people. And then it's a matter of you, or those of you watching, or those of you who coach with us, trying it on and seeing. And what you found, Lisa, is a lot of it has worked. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I knew that I had to be open, because it wasn't going to work if I wasn't going to be open. And so, and some of the things didn't work but a lot of them did. And I would have never known those if I hadn't taken that leap and go, let's try it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we talked about learning not to be reactive. We talked about planning more and kind of had taking that big picture view and delegating more. Can you speak a little bit to like some of the personal transformation that you've gone through this year, or what's changed there? Or...
Oh, it seems like I've just so much transformation in me. It's more like we were just talking, it's more of the intention, of whether it's wanting me to be healthier, whether it could be things like even eating better or whatever. The intention behind it is I feel better. I'm not so tired. I'm clearer. So I know what I want. I know how I'm going to get there. There'll be a little bit of tweaks, but I know how I want to get there. And I just take it as it comes. I just realize I have to take it as it comes.
Yeah. And when you came, when we started working together a year ago, did you know exactly what you wanted, or not really at that time?
I think in many conversations it's changed a few times as we had talked. I mean, it changed. I had no clue what I wanted. I just knew I needed something different and I needed a change. So so that's why I am so glad.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point, because I think a lot of people watching this might be going, I don't know exactly what I want. Maybe some do, but a lot don't. They just know something needs to change, and they just know a year from now they don't want to be in the same place they're in now, right?
And
And
who's
it's like,
there? I mean, you picked up on that. very quickly that I just didn't know.
Yeah, that's why we do our clarity calls. So if anybody is watching this and you're curious, we do these 30-minute free coaching sessions. And that's an opportunity for us to go in and start to get you clarity about what you want. And then that way, then you can see what are the next steps to get there. Because if you don't have crystal clarity, then how are you going to create it, right? How are you going to take the steps over the next year to get there? So if you're curious about doing one of those clarity calls, and you're watching this video, if you're on Facebook, send me a Facebook message at McKenna Sage, and you can actually go to the URL m.me/McKenna Sage personal, MAKENA personal. And just send me a note and say, I'd like to do a clarity call. Because that's really, I find, the first step is to get that clarity. And then from there, it's to make the plan, right? And then we could talk about what it will take for you to get that kind of plan in place, to start making your dreams a reality. Because wherever you're sitting right now, if you really look at a year from now, how do you want your life, your business to be, right? Where do you want to be in your business? That's usually what people come to us for first, but also in your life. And then I think the third one, and what Lisa's really speaking to here, is who do you want to be? Like, how do you want to be different? Because the Lisa that's sitting here across from me on Zoom is a very different Lisa than the one a year ago.
Yes.
You
Oh,
want to speak to that
absolutely.
a little bit more? Is there, how are you different than the Lisa a year ago?
I'm more relaxed for sure. I'm more, I'm at ease. I don't let things stress me out the way that they did. Um, I I do a variety of things. I might do yoga, I might meditate, um, which those things before I would just sit and I call it stewing. So I would just sit and stew. I don't do that anymore. It's not productive and it only hurts me. So I'm like, nope, I can't do that anymore.
And when you started making these changes, a lot of magic showed up in your life. I remember, like, just
Things
unexpected.
were, oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you were able to, is there anything you want to speak to there that you're open to sharing?
Um, I once I made that decision to really commit, I didn't have to do much to get business. Um, for instance, I have a financial advisor company that I did taxes for a family member, and then they called me and said, "I'd like to have a meeting with you because I own a financial advisory business, and I would like you to do my clients' tax returns." I was like, "Oh, sure." And I went to the meeting and they're like, "Yep, we're working with you. We're going to set it all up. You don't have to worry about anything. Just give us your information." And um, they just last month, I think, yeah, last month, they put a newsletter out with my information. I have at least 5 to 6 appointments, new appointments with their clients a week.
Wow. Wow. And I know you don't have to share all the details, but I know you had unexpected financial windfalls in other areas of your life, right? We're able to pay off a lot of things. Is there
Oh,
you
yeah.
speak to with all that? You don't have to tell a lot of
Oh,
detail, but
yeah,
yeah.
no, I decided, because we had talked and, we had, um, decided, okay, because I really want to travel. So that was one of the big things, is I wanted to travel, but I never had the money to travel. So we decided, okay, we're gonna put this much towards travel, this much towards retirement, this much towards, and I ended up exceeding that and able to pay off 2 loans that we had, plus put everything aside for travel, everything to retirement, and I still had money left over. Yeah.
Wow, the power of clarity, right? And of commitment, I would say, hugely commitment. And then I would say curiosity is the other big quality I see in you,
Mhm.
is your openness and your willingness to try things on and be curious and see if it works for you.
Yeah.
Um, So there was one more thing I wanted to touch on before we close, which is just in terms of moving forward, you have some big visions and goals for next year. Anything you want to share?
Oh, yes. A lot. I hired a virtual assistant, so that will help a lot. My one son is actually taking classes. He's going to be doing tax returns instead of doing some of the paperwork side of it. So he's going to do both. Um, I am going to start doing workshops for budgeting and hopefully start hiring because I want to hire single moms and I really have a calling to hire single moms so they don't have to worry about childcare because they can work from home. They don't have to worry about a lot of the burdens that they might have. So that is all in the works, friends.
That's amazing. And what's your financial goal for next year? Are you open to sharing?
Oh, it is 200,000. 200,000, 250,000. I think 200,000.
Oh, we got to get you clear so you can go for it. Yeah.
See?
You could always do
So
200 and then do it
200,000,
again.
200,000.
So that'll be double what you were making last
Mhm.
year, right? So at least double. Well, so incredible. And then you have some big travels planned and a
Mhm.
lot of fun stuff. Well, thank
Yes.
you for sharing some of what has worked for you to make these changes. I think there are some really great tips there in terms of instead of just being reactive, really planning ahead and being more responsive, right? Zooming out and planning in your business. You talked about time blocking, you talked about delegating and what a difference that's made for you, learning some of these communication skills and what that's shifted for you. And I think just the power of clarity and then commitment to
Oh,
really go for
absolutely.
what you want and following through. So
Yeah,
thank
absolutely.
you
Thank you
so
for
much for
having
your
me.
time. Yeah, appreciate it. And we'll talk soon.
All right.
Bye.